Running a business comes with a lot of what ifs, but luckily there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer. This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to People Tech, the podcast of WorkforceAI.news. I'm Mark Pfeffer. All of a sudden, AI agents are everywhere. Developers are thinking of new ways to apply the approach, and customers are imagining new ways of putting them to use. Recently, Oracle released a series of role-based agents within Fusion Cloud HCM. They want to improve both productivity and the employee experience. My guest today is Yvette Cameron, Senior Vice President of Oracle Cloud HCM Product Strategy. We're going to talk about the evolution of agents, both at Oracle and throughout the industry, and more on this edition of People Tech. Yvette, welcome. So tell me about your new agents.
So we're very excited at Oracle to be bringing a series of generative AI agents to the market, available right now in our applications. But before I drill into what agents are, let me back up for 30 seconds and set the stage on generative AI and what it has been enabling in enterprise software like Oracle. So we all know that OpenAI and ChatGPT came to the market back in November of 2022. Everybody started using ChatGPT to answer questions and create stories and create pictures and really interesting things. And Oracle brought its first generative AI capabilities to market in September of 2023. And these were very simple prompt and response. Press a button and have a document filled out for you. So a job description could be created. A performance review could have a manager's feedback summarized very quickly. A candidate could have their resume summarized into an executive summary. These generative AI assistants were the first phase of supporting workers and getting past that blank page syndrome and really accelerating work and productivity. And we started doing that back in September of 2023. Last year, we moved and advanced our investments in generative AI by introducing context into that interaction, by being able to consume the policies of the organization, by understanding the individual themselves and the role they play and the benefits they have and the dependents they have and what they're paid, et cetera, where they're located. We can now, by bringing this concept of agents, generative AI agents into transactions, really provide personalized guidance and interactivity in these HCM transactions. So we've just released today in our press release an announcement of a number of new generative AI agents, which are aimed at improving the productivity and the understanding and the satisfaction that users have to drive ultimately better outcomes, whether it's in how you grow your career, how you manage your compensation and benefits, elections, just managing the life cycle of the employee throughout their time at the employer. How can we help in a much more personalized and interactive way that's going to help drive better outcomes for the individual and for the organization?
Can you give me an example of how they work?
Sure. So one of my favorite examples is our performance and review agent. So we are able to, for employees, we are able to help not only suggest the goals that they should create and generate goal descriptions. That's kind of the generation one of generative AI assist. But through adding our performance and goals agent, we're now able to interact with the employee while they're writing their goals or completing their performance review and answer their questions. The individual can ask the question, how can I write better goals? What's the best way to articulate the outcomes that I'm looking to achieve this year in my performance through development? So, guiding and coaching the individual through that process of goal creation or managing their annual performance review. And for managers, similarly, not only can we generate summaries for the manager, we can make recommendations on development tips that they should assign to their employees, but also very, importantly, help guide the manager through important conversations. So the manager can interact with the performance and goal agent and ask questions like, how can I have this difficult, constructive conversation with an employee? How can I have a conversation with an employee who's performing well in 4 out of 5 areas, but needs assistance in this one area without demotivating them? Or how can I best position my review so that this high performer is encouraged to take work in other parts of the organization that will advance their career? So again, providing that very contextual, in the moment support with the policies of the company being articulated back to the user so that the guidance is, in line with, union contracts or company policies, taking the best practices from, known sources in the internet, et cetera, and just really making the experience richer and better, again, for the individual and ultimately getting to better outcomes in that transaction.
How do users interact with it? I mean, is this a chatbot uh, style approach? Is it a voice? Is it both?
That's a great question. So the experience can be both. And if you think about what we've had in our applications for years, Mark, we've had digital assistants where I can ask a question about the policy of the company, and the digital assistant will respond back. But the way that digital assistant was programmed was very specific. Some designer, some engineer in the back room had to think of all the different ways a question could be asked, and then the engineer would craft what the answer would be. In today's environment of generative AI, we train the large language models on the subject area. And now with retrieval augmented generation, we can bring the policies of the company, we can bring the union contracts, we can bring specific, local legislation information, and further train that large language model on that process. And the response is automatically generated by the generative AI agent. So I'm no longer typing in as an engineer what the response will be. The AI agent is crafting that response. And again, with our training and development here at Oracle and our underlying infrastructure, we have been training those models, removing all the hallucinations and irrelevant responses so that the responses are indeed appropriate for the topic area process that's being managed. So it feels conversational like a digital assistant, but how the content is generated and how that digital assistant is trained is significantly different. It's from pre-programmed to dynamic and intelligent and learning as it consumes more information. That's the evolution from traditional to generative AI.
Tito's Handmade Vodka is America's favorite vodka for a reason. From the first legal distillery in Texas, Tito's is 6 times distilled till it's just right. And naturally gluten-free, making it a high-quality spirit that mixes with just about anything. From the smoothest martinis to the best Bloody Marys. Tito's is known for giving back, teaming up with nonprofits to serve its communities and do good for dogs. Make your next cocktail with Tito's. Distilled and bottled by 5th Generation Inc., Austin, Texas. 40% alcohol by volume. Savor responsibly.
Hey, we're the payroll baddies. And our mission is to make payroll fun and relatable.
And call out industry when they hear it.
You got to call it out. You got to call it like you see it. But we also got to shine a light on all those unsung payroll heroes out there, making sure we get paid.
Yeah, those are the real payroll baddies out there, and we love sharing their stories and showing them love.
With gold chain and everything, baby.
By the way, SAP is the best payroll out there, and if you don't like it,
get out.
This next question, I've probably got two flavors. One from the Oracle development point of view and the other from the customer point of view. And is the technology in your mind, is this an advance in technology or is this more about usability?
Mark, I would say it's absolutely both. So clearly the technology is advancing. The example I just gave of moving from ODA to generative AI shows the ease with which organizations can deploy these new generative AI capabilities, the assistive capabilities that will generate text, the agents that now use RAG-based technologies to bring context to the interaction and be more, more in line with, my specific situation versus yours. Getting to that level of personalization would take significantly longer if you were hard coding the responses in traditional ODA. And I don't want to say ODA goes away, by the way. I think there are still places in our enterprise applications where we want to have 100% certainty and consistent answer each and every time that digital assistant is invoked. So there is a place for both of them. But the technology has evolved. And by the way, Mark, we're delivering agents today, but the technology is still evolving to where in the very near future, we can add actions and reasoning to these agents so that they start working autonomously on our behalf. Right? They actually don't just respond to our question. They bring recommendations to us. They actually, create the performance review and fill it out and bring it to me to review as opposed to having to go in and manage it. So yes, definitely a technology evolution, but experience change too. So I've loved how in the past decade we have been using more digital assistants to have a conversational interface. We're using technology to bring a little bit more humanity to the process, if that makes sense. But now with generative AI, that experience becomes even more relevant. It becomes deeper beyond just simple questions. The questions can get deeper. I can ask about impact of the company policy and best case scenarios and, should I do this or that? And the agent will give me, information on both possible outcomes. So it's interesting, but I think we're using using technology to bring a more human-like experience into these transactions and how we're getting support. I don't have to enter a help desk ticket anymore. I can interact with the agent. I can type it or I can use voice, right? Because we're doing things on mobile, so voice to text is fine. But I can ask. It's like having a digital employee, a virtual digital employee supporting me in all of my transactions. And if that doesn't change the experience, I don't know what does. I mean, it's exciting.
Agents in the last, say, 6 months, the conversation about them has really gathered momentum. It's more companies are introducing them, more users are starting to think about, working them into their workflow. Do you think these are really a next big thing for AI, or are we going to see more of them, or do you think they might even become kind of a standard interface to a lot of AI apps?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question and observation. First off, we are seeing and hearing about agents coming into enterprise applications. And I do want to caution there's a difference between consumer-based agents and enterprise class agents. I was talking with a customer at an event, and they were using a consumer-based agent to answer questions, but the answers were all very generic. They were not specifically reflecting the policies of the company. So, hey, what's a good benefit plan? Oh, or do dental plans, offer, orthodontia coverage? Well, yeah, you can get generic answers, but specifically what does the company offer, and what am I entitled to, given where I live, etc., is very different. And you only get that when you can personalize it and give it the context of the individual. So agents are definitely um, coming onto the scene, but I caution users and buyers of these technologies to make sure that the agents are trained and relevant and bringing that context in for true enterprise class usage. Will it change the experience on how we actually access software? I would say absolutely yes. Look what's happening in ChatGPT today. I can go out to Chat GPT, and I used to just be presented with a line and I would start asking my question. Now I'm presented with a marketplace of tools. Hey, I can choose an agent that will create images for me. I can choose an agent, from this Chat GPT marketplace that will help me create poetry or schedule a vacation, right, for next spring, and it'll do all the the planning of hotels and air and things to do, etc. So I'm now, as a consumer, presented with a marketplace of agents to do any number of activities. And that experience is absolutely going to come in to the enterprise. And when I think about HCM software at Oracle, we're looking at that same paradigm. Imagine as a world where, as a manager, for example, I'm presented with a marketplace of virtual digital assistants, and I can say, I want to hire somebody. And that agent will kick off a series of agents that will source candidates and set up interviews, etc. Or I might want to manage the talent review, the annual talent review. In the olden days, I would go to the software and I would navigate to talent review and do various things. In the future, I imagine that you'll be able to select a talent review agent and have that agent kick off a series of processes that will act autonomously. It'll score the employees, it'll gather feedback, it'll schedule the interviews, et cetera, and check in with me when it needs to validate what it's doing. But ultimately, invoking agents and having them autonomously take action on my behalf, and I then become a manager of agents and not just a bunch of employees. It's going to be a new world. And now I don't think I'm talking 5 years away. I'm probably talking 18 months to 2 years, but we are definitely going to see a new level of interaction in software than what we're seeing today. And I'm here for it. It's going to be exciting.
The as you were talking, a question occurred to me about whether or not you could end up having competing agents on the same platform,
Mm.
meaning agents that sort of overlap in their functionality. First of all, is that the kind of thing that could happen? And are there dangers if you have two agents dealing with the same content set?
That's an interesting, I mean, and it's a brave new world that we're entering, right? Things are changing so fast. We're already exploring our third generation of investment in generative AI, right? Starting from traditional AI to those little assistants that would just fill out information to agents to now, autonomous type work. So I guess what I'm saying is it's hard to tell, what may happen. I do envision in the scenarios that I was just giving the example of, I may have an agent that focuses on scheduling meetings, and this agent may focus on scheduling meetings with candidates. Maybe the same agent focuses on scheduling meetings with managers for the talent review process, or maybe there's a bespoke agent that's only for candidates interviewing and another bespoke agent that's only for talent reviews. So some overlap in the interview process and scheduling of my calendar, because I need to meet with candidates and I need to meet with other managers, but for different processes. So those could overlap, but if the intelligence is working under the covers, look for availability. There shouldn't be a problem. But who knows, right? I think this is just part of what we're going to examine and explore and discover as we move into, embracing more agents and more autonomous work. And as fast as we're discovering, if conflicts are found, I have no hesitation that we're going to figure out how to overcome those. We're learning fast as an industry. We're moving fast and we're learning fast.
So how do you see agents evolving,
Yeah.
either in their how they're used or how they're built or their
Yeah.
impact on the
Yeah.
platform.
Well, we're definitely already on that evolution platform. Again, the world was rocked when we could, create a job description at the push of a button, or create a performance review summary, look at all the performance feedback received over the year, and with the press of one button, have that feedback consolidated into one master, summary for the manager to use on the performance review and edit as appropriate. And that was exciting, but that was also where we were back in 2023. And then in 2024, the evolution to introducing agents which bring context to that language support that we were doing, creating language, creating text. Context now made that even more exciting. We've in our press release, we've just announced, I don't know, 12 additional agents or so, in our current release, where beyond just filling out forms and adding documents, we're now able to have an interaction. The agent can do some research for me and it can answer questions. And it's more like working with an expert. The next step is actually to start taking action. So these agents, beyond just researching and interacting with me and answering questions, now can start taking action on my behalf. They can complete a performance evaluation and, provide that overall scoring. And of course, come back to me and say, hey, I took some action. Are you okay with it? Yes or no? And if not, then make your adjustments. Or I've scheduled all these interviews for you. Are you okay with that? So taking action is the next, like the third evolution I see in generative AI. And a lot of organizations will be hesitant about an agent, a digital assistant, taking action. But again, if there is human in the loop, if there's the appropriate connection with humans at the right points, I think that we'll see the productivity gains are going to be phenomenal. Then the fourth evolution is actually bringing each of those individual agents together and orchestrating them in an end-to-end process. And so I shared a little bit of my vision of that already in this idea of a talent review or hiring. If I just came in and said, hey, I want to hire somebody, I've got a new team and I need to hire somebody, imagine an agent that is like supervising all the other agents. And you think of an agent as just a digital employee that goes to one agent and says, all right, I need you to write the job description. You, sourcing agent, I need you to go out and find candidates that match that job description. And then the next agent, I need you to schedule interviews with those candidates who do meet that job description with me, the manager, and on to ultimately where another agent is putting a job offer together and making sure the salary is appropriate given all the conditions. So the fourth generation, the fourth evolution of these generative capabilities will be not just taking action, but bringing reasoning to the table and automatically creating schedules and suggesting activities and bringing information and action forward to again bring complex capabilities and multiple agents together for an end-to-end process. So that's the four levels of evolution that I'm seeing right now. And beyond that, I don't know. I'm just waiting to get to level 4, which I think is coming very quickly.
What do you hear from users about this approach? Is this the kind of thing that they're reacting to positively? It just fits for them, it just works? Or are they a little resistant because it's different? What do you hear?
Um, to answer those questions, yes, yes, and yes, which is, of course, it's a spectrum. And it depends on the culture of the organization, the culture and the mindset of the individual leaders who are driving these charges. Sometimes rolling out generative AI capabilities, we all see the promise of productivity, improved consistency, reducing the workload on humans in some areas, augmenting the capabilities of humans in other areas, ultimately better outcomes. But the the readiness of individuals and organizations is on a complete spectrum. And so I've seen all ends, right? Again, we recently had a customer event, and I had a customer who couldn't wait for our next versions of agents and what's next. They're consuming as fast as they can because they see the value, the efficiencies for managers. They see the consistency and all those benefits. On the other hand, we have companies who are saying, we're still putting our compliance committee together. We need to make sure that, each piece is fully vetted, that we test it for months, that our employees approve of it, and our legal, has vetted all the answers. And they're taking a much slower follower, not a leader, but a follower approach to this. And so again, I think to each company, they need to do what's appropriate for their culture. But I will say, globally, no technology has been consumed as quickly as generative AI. I think it hit over 100 million users in something like 5 months or something. My stat may be wrong, but it has been consumed. It's like the top 3 technologies consumed faster than any other technology before it. And for those who are lagging, those who are waiting for everything to be fully in place, all questions answered, 100% bulletproof, etc., they will be finding themselves behind the others who have embraced and taken the low-hanging fruit. Let's do the easy use cases. Let's start getting familiar with this technology, and then see where we're comfortable taking it. So it's a spectrum, and it depends on where companies are with their tolerance for new embracing new tech.
Yvette, thank you so much for taking the time to talk today.
You bet.
My guest today has been Yvette Cameron, Senior Vice President of Oracle Cloud HCM Product Strategy. And this has been People Tech, the podcast of WorkforceAI.news. We're a part of the Work Defined Podcast Network. Find them at www.wrkdefined.com. And to keep up with AI technology in HR, subscribe to Workforce AI today. We're the most trusted source of news in the HR tech industry. Find us at www.workforceai.news. I'm Mark Pfeffer.